individual, Jesus Christ. Not these so-called many other Jesuses that it's talk of people encountering these many other Jesuses. I haven't heard of these many other Jesuses. Certainly you'll find there's one Lord, and the differentiation between Christ is that he's the only begotten Son of God.
Totally. But again, they don't usually want to have that conversation. They'll just be like, God got me, the Lord got me, I'm good,
Necessarily expected that going in. I wouldn't think that any long-term, Tucker Carlson fans would be able to watch a Satanist on his show and say, well, he's got a point. But the fact that there are some means there is some real value in engaging with people. And I feel like that is one of the more important messages of our time right now. People really are engaging, and people are really doubling down and drawing hard lines, tribalizing more, and it's really not doing us any favors. And I'm worried about the next election.
I know. I hear you.
Amber, I'm thinking what you probably meant to say was, I'm a jealous God. Isn't love jealous? Aren't you jealous, or weren't you jealous of Wiz? Meaning you didn't want to share, because of your love for Wiz, you didn't want to share with another. But for God to be selfish, when the concept of giving is so heavily throughout the Bible. So you're saying a whole bunch of things, misquotes and errors. And I'm just, I'm taking the stance that it's by accident. But if you esteem science and research, it seems like the goal would be to actually study to know the truth of what you're saying. Because I understand you don't get into it here, but you said you've dealt with religious trauma. Now, the flip side of that is this. Hurting people hurt people. And because you've went through trauma, you have to come to your own conclusions and your own decisions, whether because of what you went through, is it then okay for you to cause other people pain? Should you cause other people pain because you went through pain? But it's important to get over our traumas. As the one lady you talked to who said she came actually out of a cult. It was through the Bible she came out of a cult. She saw that what the person was telling her wasn't lining up with what was actually in the Bible. So the truths in the Bible helped her to get actually out of the cult. And she prayed and she got out of the cult. Now, her personality is so sweet. We understand the abuse for lots of people could be abuse in family and relationships, and it makes you start to buck up against and have trauma. It can turn you away from God. But every person, including myself, I have a song called Church Hurt. After going through pain and trauma and going through 4 different churches, that didn't turn me away from God, and that didn't turn me away from Jesus. And like I mentioned, or as you well know, Jesus was crucified by supposedly people who were envious, but people who actually esteemed his same beliefs. So it's fair to say, okay, he was hurt by believers. So it's not common for you to run into a whole bunch of believers to say, okay, they've also been hurt. But what does that have to do? What men are doing to me? What does that have to do with me blaming God for it? And it's important to get over our hurt, because what if we bring that into our relationships? Because now we're saying things and doing things and we're not being fair and objective. So now, you mentioned those things are important. About giving grace. Grace is important. Or, you're not going to be the one to, you're going to let others live. So giving grace, not exposing them, not telling the bad, keeping them in a good light. But what is also important, especially for us to overcome our traumas, is not just to space and not speak bad of, but to actually walk in forgiveness. Because unforgiveness actually starts to affect us in the heart. And those people who hurt you, sometimes they can go on with their lives. In some of these interviews, as you say certain things, and when you talk about outcast or being distanced from families, as you're asking your question of the Satanist, while you're asking the question to him, pain is also showing in your face. So we already know. Then you also reveal you've been hurt. Now, I do wonder why earlier, and I kind of put that cartoon in kind of just jokingly, but I do wonder earlier why you said, okay, you don't know that answer, and got that answer from a Satanist, that there are people who really do believe in Satan. And then after getting that answer, you said you did know the answer to it, and he told you people actually do believe in Satan. You came afterwards and said on the podcast with Jason that Satanists don't believe in Satan. It can't be both. Now, there can be a minority and they can be a majority, but it can't be both. You said you didn't know. He gave you the answer. Now you had the answer, but then you came and said something different. So I was just pointing that out to you, because there's nothing wrong with sharing the whole truth, even if it doesn't. I mean, the agenda is truth, right? So we're being objective, so the agenda is truth. It's not our own personal agenda. We're just sharing truths and what you believe. And what others truthfully believe and what's out there. And that's a fact. There are people who do believe in Satan and worship Satan. Not all Satanists are non-deists. On the way, the church community is somewhere throwing Bibles at the script.
But they don't have to, because that's my belief, right? I'm not throwing anything at them for their beliefs. You're not throwing anything at Muslims for their beliefs. We all believe in different things. That's why I love America. We live in a free country to have these conversations. I'm an all-American girl, and I believe that we should all believe in what we want.
Yeah, I knew eventually we would have the show. I literally shut down in the car and refused to entertain it. And I think me being openly gay, and I'm
God hates you. How are you gay?
See, but I don't believe that, and I've never read in a Bible that it said that. I think people take this book and have read and made many iterations in their mind of what it, because you can't serve a God who's about love and peace and helping those that
Didn't God kill like everyone on earth except for Noah?
I mean, there's a lot of people in this world dying right now that probably should die. I don't think that death.
I'm with you.
Eye for an eye. I mean, can we get back to that? But that's in the Bible.
Sure, but that's not. But Christianity's Christians don't live by that anymore.
You even went to the Vatican. That's why the Pope was telling you get out of here. Okay, so you say in the Old Testament, an eye for an eye, you're with that, but Christians don't believe in that anymore. So there is just being contrary or just anti, because you told Jason, God hates you. He said, man, God don't hate me. God is love. I actually preach a message talking about God love, but I know certain communities and other things, they understand that. I do believe God loves Jason. What I'm just pointing out is there are, just like he said, different interpretations. And all I'm saying is, as you're There's nothing wrong with actually studying and knowing what the text and the Bible actually says. That's all I'm saying. There's nothing wrong with knowing what it actually says. Because when you know what it actually says, then you could say, okay, this is what this religion actually believes. Instead of and it's just like the woman who said she came out of a cult by reading the Bible. This is exactly why when you had the conversation with the Satanist, he said, maybe I just ran into the wrong Jesus. The Bible is right there for you to see. Instead of putting so much, and there is a responsibility that believers have. If you say you're a disciple of Christ, to actually walk in his teachings and to walk as he walked. So right off the bat, and in fact, what was insightful is the Satanists actually revealed that most people who are Satanists are coming together and congregating and getting a cathartic release in their opposition against the oppression they felt in Christianity. So he admitted it. As a Temple of Satan leader, he said, look, most of them, they felt oppressed in the church. So I want to say, on behalf of believers, on behalf of this ministry, I apologize for the hurt caused to the Satanists. I apologize for the hurt that you endured, the religious trauma. I apologize for the hurt on behalf as people grew along their way to maturity. Because a lot of times when people are young and kids, just like you said, I don't know why I said that earlier, but you wouldn't say that now as you've matured. So sometimes we have to give others the same grace that we give ourselves. So all I'm saying is, forgive us for those who didn't walk in love and light towards you. Because that's what we were supposed to do. And that is the message.